In your project, you'll always need to define what you need to deliver at each milestone and at the end of the project. And sometimes this is just a minimum viable product, the MVP, in order to convince upper management or your client that you can deliver something of value. So let's get the shortest time frame, smallest deliverable that can actually demonstrate some value in that period. In that context, of course, you need to defend your scope vigorously. You need to make sure that new items aren't added, new features aren't added, so that the scope that you've agreed for that MVP is sacrosanct and doesn't become endangered by other priorities or other features that are requested. But in this video, I'm going to mention another point of view, which is sometimes those extra features or extra add-on deliverables might add a lot of value to your project. We can spend a lot of time debating and trying to push back on those add-ons, and this can be time well spent to avoid derailing the effort to deliver something of value in the time that we've got. But sometimes it's better to just accept that additional feature and take ownership of it and drive forward to add that extra value. That might mean rolling up your sleeves and doing it yourself. It might mean reallocating the work so that someone else in your team has the time and the focus and the space to address that additional feature. Sometimes it's better to just be out with it with your team and just explain, okay, we have this additional deliverable. I know it's additional work, but it's going to lead to a much better legacy for our team. If we just get this done, this kind of test plan, this kind of document, this artifact, this kind of logging feature, then it's going to produce a lot more value for the client, and it might even have a wow factor that otherwise your project deliverable would not have. It could be something that someone more senior suggested and requested. It could be something that you thought of or that a team member mentioned in passing, and on further consideration you realize this actually could add a lot more value. It's worth the extra effort to get this feature in. Just because so-and-so suggested it, it doesn't mean you need to adopt it. Sometimes though, it could be worthwhile, and in some cases you may not have a choice. It may be that the security team requested it, the risk team requested it, and unless you get those teams over the line, this project isn't going anywhere. And so you may need to actually just bite the bullet and say, this is worthwhile, and not in a grudging way, but as the project manager, actually get behind it and say, this is why it's important, and actually sell it to the team as something that is going to add value to their legacy. As a project manager, a lot of people will come to you saying, you should think about this, you should think about that, you need to do this, you need to do that. And you need to be able to distinguish which of those things can go in the backlog, especially if you're aiming for an MVP, and which of those things are actually worth further consideration. And sometimes the things that are put in the least forceful way are actually the things that are from the most knowledgeable people, and they're the things that are worth giving serious consideration to. I'll give an example. So in a pricing implementation project, we were implementing the rating factors and the pricing algorithm in the production system so that when customers come through the various channels, online, in the actual physical office, in a branch, or the various other ways that they could join and take out a policy, they enter their particular personal factors like their address, their date of birth, and so on, that are taken into account in the pricing algorithm, and then the price is returned to them. So our pricing testing process would take the new customers from the last month and check their prices, and also the renewals from the last month and check the prices in the production system, or a system that's just like production, versus our simulation engine to check that they're the same. We asked, what if we could take the prices from the last 12 months? Because 1 month is a pretty limited period. You're still going to get thousands of customers being tested, not in the real world, but it's all in a test environment. But there'll be a lot of scenarios that you're not picking up, especially as this product is on an annual life cycle. So we asked, what would it take to test all the new customers from the last year? And then we asked, what if we could test the entire portfolio of current customers and all the renewals over a 1 year period, and all the new, including all the new customers as well who'd come in over the last 12 months. Then also, can we check all the quotes from customers who requested a price but didn't actually convert into customers over the last 12 months? This would take a lot more time, an extra week of testing. We decided to do it in parallel with the existing release and testing cycle. So it didn't actually add any time to the release process. It added more effort because we were doing more work at the same time, but we were able to allocate somebody to that. And we did find a lot of anomalies. They weren't material, so we didn't have to change the release process, and they've affected certain scenarios that didn't arise very often. But we did learn a lot, and we were able to give a much better story to senior management about the level of testing that we do. So this is where the team can actually be inspired, because we changed the testing of 1 month into the entire portfolio of customers, as well as an entire year of quotes, which tests actually millions of scenarios, not just tens of thousands. So both are good, but we took it to the next level. And you can actually ask your team, if we want to remove all the limits and just go crazy, just for brainstorming purposes, what would we really like to do? And it may be that some of the ideas your team comes up with are actually feasible. Then your team is pushed, they push themselves, the team as a whole, the team as individuals all feel that they're capable of more. The team's reputation is going to grow, and your reputation as a leader, you're doing your job as a leader much better. Your reputation as a leader will grow, and you'll expect more of yourself, and you'll be able to deliver more as well. So something to consider when we think about scope creep. It's important to avoid scope creep where we can't afford it. But sometimes if you can chase new scope of the right kind, then you can add a lot more value to your customer, and your team can deliver a lot more and be much more proud of themselves.